What is going on, comic fam? It's your boy, the bearded comic bro, and I am joined by comic creator Tony Isabella. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
I'm so excited. You've worked in comics for decades and you've
50
created some great.
years. It
How
will be
many?
50 years come
Ooh,
Halloween of this
ooh,
year.
50 years. That's so fantastic. And you've created some of the great characters like Misty Knight and Tigra, but you most well known for one of my favorite characters, Jefferson Pierce, or you might well know better as Black Lightning. And
I
so
get to call him Jeff.
I'm not at that relationship with
Yeah,
him. I still
no,
gotta
no,
call him Jefferson. I
Jeff and
gotta show
I are
respect.
tight.
So yeah, you're a little closer with him than I am. So I want to talk about all things comic, but I really just want to know first, how did you get into comics? Have you always had a love for comics like growing up? And
Well, I learned to read comic books on my own before I was 4 years old. People were reading comic books to me, and I looked very closely at the words and everything because I wanted to cut out the middleman and not have to wait for somebody to read me a comic book. So before I was 4 years old, I could read. Not long after that, I could write. In fact, when I was in kindergarten, I used to constantly get pulled out of class so that the principal could show me off to visitors, as if her and her school had a damn thing to do with my being able to read and write. I do remember that the first thing I actually wrote was probably a review of a Zorro episode. Zorro being one of my favorite TV shows.
nice.
But I thought comics were a great way to tell a story. I loved them. About the age I was being told I was too old to read them, which was like in 1963.
Mm.
I was born in December 51. I went on a vacation trip, and every stop along the way, I bought comic books because back then you could. Well, my parents, my mother especially, got very upset with the fact that I was spending my vacation money on comic books, my souvenir money, and I'm thinking it's my money.
Right?
Um, we get to Oneonta, New York, where my father had relatives. He had an uncle who had a cigar and magazine store. Immediately headed towards the comics, only to be told by my mother that I could only buy one more comic book. Well, I was smarter than her, so I said I'm going to buy a quarter comic book. Well, I had all the DC quarter comics I'd already had that
Mm.
were there. Wasn't interested in Archie really or Harvey.
Yeah.
So I ended up buying Fantastic Four Annual #1, the greatest comic book of all time. And this was even though I didn't like the Fantastic Four. I'd only read one issue and didn't care for it. It was just too different from the
Mm.
DC heroes I'd been reading. But something about that annual just captivated me. The 37-page Submariner attacks the human race, all the feature pages, a reprint of the origin, a redoing of their first meeting with Spider-Man. And it occurred to me, maybe around the sixth or seventh time I read the comic book that weekend, that this was a job. People got paid for making comic books, and I wanted to do that. So really from the age of 12 on, I started training myself to write comic books. I'd study them. Um, I'd act out stories with Mark's Army Men, the little hard plastic green ones. Uh, I got a hold of a copy of Stan Lee's Secrets Behind the Comics, and actually tried to write in the 2-column format that he showed in that book. I did that. I wrote in 2 columns for about 2 years, and then abandoned it to write basically the kind of script I write today. Um, but yeah, that was it. From that point on, I wanted to write comic books. I wrote lots of letters to the comic books themselves. I wrote for fanzines. I wrote comic stories for fanzines. I corresponded with people like Murray Boltinoff and Roy Thomas and Steve Englehart, all of who were very kind to me and gave me lots of good information. My backup plan was to be Clark Kent. I went to the Cleveland, I was a copy assistant at the Cleveland Plain Dealer, which is a horrible newspaper then and now. It's the tool of the rich and the famous
Mm,
and the powerful. And we went on strike, and the publisher had called his buddy, the mayor, and the mayor sent mounted police to attack our picket line. I got knocked to the ground by a frightened copy editor. A horse's hoof landed inches from my face. I got up, dusted myself off, went home. By that time, being a single guy, making a decent living, I had my own apartment. Called up Roy Thomas, who I, would talk to a couple times a month, and asked him if there was any kind of job at Marvel. Turns out they needed somebody to assist Stan Lee on the British Marvels, the British Marvel weeklies,
yeah.
and other projects. Well, and they needed somebody with certain skills, which I had. You had to be able to write to a certain extent. You had to be able to edit. You had to know the history of Marvel, which was a lot easier in 1972 because it had only been around for about 10 years. And that just, once I was there, and once Roy saw that I could do the job and Stan saw I could do the job, freelance opportunities would come my way. Within a very short time, I was editing half the black and white line and writing, 3 or 4 comic books a month, which you had to do because the staff pay was not good. But
Yeah.
that's how I got in the comics. But along the way, I trained myself to write comic books.
Yes, it sounds like you kind of laid the groundwork of like you knew right off the bat that this is something that you wanted to do, and train yourself to read, then to write at such an early age, and then going, okay, I'm gonna do this. And so you said you were writing. Were you writing in like the back column of comic books to?
Oh yeah, yeah. I probably had 60 or so letters printed in comic books letters pages.
Do you remember what your first comic book was that your letter was printed in?
Actually, no, I don't.
Uh,
It was one of those things that I look today at age 70. I said, boy, I wish I had kept track of that stuff. I probably don't even have copies of all the comics that have my letters in them. Although at some point, I'm going to call upon my fans and ask them to send me copies of
yeah.
any letters they come across, because I'd like to collect them into a book with some commentary on where my head was at when I wrote them,
Yeah.
what was going on.
That's so cool. Like, yeah, it's got to be a cool thing. And yeah, of course, like as your fans, like I'm, now I'm even like, I gotta find out some of these letters. I want to know, like, I want to find out what your first one was, and I want to, I want to own it.
I know now the first mention might have been the I won a page of Doom Patrol artwork from Murray Boltinoff.
Oh,
And I don't think I had a full letter, but I think my name was listed as one of the winners of that.
that's so cool to just see the passion there and so you're corresponding then with writing in letters. Is that
Right.
kind of then how you got that connection
I,
with
I
Roy?
oh yeah, I wrote to Murray Boltinoff and actually sent Murray a script which he kind of critiqued for me. It was for a Challengers of the Unknown story. I did a Marvel 6 pages of a Marvel test script for Roy that convinced Roy that I could write, but they didn't have a job for me at that point. But yeah, no, I would pitch ideas to Roy. I would pitch ideas to other people. I pitched an idea to Dick Giordano. I was sending plots in and everything, and eventually, once I got in at Marvel, I started writing for Marvel.
Yeah, and so because I mean, I know you did some work on Ghost Rider. You did like a couple annual like
Yeah,
one shots and stuff like that.
I was kind of a utility player in that regard. I did have my regular titles, some of which lasted longer than ever. It's the Living Colossus, Ghost
Yep.
Rider. I was on Luke Cage for a while. I was on Daredevil for a while. Champions, things like that. But I also was often called upon to script books that the writers were late on or come up with fill-ins. The idea, Marvel used to have a book on a schedule, Marvel Fill-In, that eventually was every month or so. Bill Mantlo had every month. I think it was Bill Mantlo had to write a fill-in comic that could go anywhere. Well, that concept actually started with me, but I was too busy to really follow through on it. The idea was that I would write, a fill-in every month. And the only one of those that I actually did was it was supposed to be an Avengers annual, and then it ended up as a two-parter in Avengers, where the mob hired an assassin to kill the Avengers. Apparently, pretty popular story because people keep bringing it up when they talk to me at conventions or online.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned conventions and online. I mean, what is that Avengers book? But is it a lot of Black Lightning? Is it a lot of what do people like gravitate towards and talk to you about most?
Black Lightning. It's Black Lightning, and then like my work at Marvel in the 70s, and then Hawkman, which I wrote at DC for a while. Yeah. Those are probably the three biggest, but almost everything I've written has had fans. I mean, Satan 6, which I did at Tops. People like Justice Machine, which I did at Kimiko. They like it better than I do. I'm happy with my work. I just felt that the concept and the art was never up to snuff. I did Grim Ghost with Kelly Jones, which I thought really turned out well. But Grim Ghost was launched, the revival of Grim Ghost was launched during DC's New 52. And so nobody was paying attention to anything but the New 52 at that point.
Yeah.
In fact, although Kelly Jones and I managed to get our issues out on time, our final issue was delayed. It was printed. It was sitting in the Diamond warehouse. They couldn't be bothered to distribute it because they were distributing the second and third printings of the New 52. So that was kind of frustrating. I did try to buy the Grim Ghost, but the publisher who owns it thought it was worth a lot more than it was. But yeah, I did try to buy the rights to Grim Ghost because I wanted to continue it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so yeah, I did all sorts of stuff. And when I go to conventions, it's mostly it's Black Lightning. That's the big one. A lot of Misty Knight fans out there, a lot of Tiger fans out there. I see Misty Knight cosplayers and Black Lightning cosplayers. Have not seen a Tiger cosplayer yet.
So if you're listening, people, make it happen. Tony needs to see a Tiger cosplay. Let's go.
Yes.
How is that experience for you then, of when you go to these cons and you see, obviously people come up and talk to you about these creations, that you created, but to see them like embrace it so much that they're dressing up and they're cosplaying as these creations, that's got to be something.
It's a great feeling. Black Lightning has brought me so much joy on so many levels. I mean, DC screws me as much as they can with Black Lightning. I mean, DC has never been a good partner. But when people come up to you with tears in their eyes and hug you because Black Lightning was the first time they saw themselves in a comic book. When John Ridley, the Oscar-winning screenwriter of 12 Years a Slave, tells you that it was your 1970s Black Lightning comics that made him want to be a writer. Stuff like that. People come up to me and tell me they became a teacher because of Jefferson Pierce. Well, no matter how much shit DC dumps on me, and man, they dump a lot. They constantly do stupid ass stuff with Black Lightning. They can't take away all those other things. Right. And of course, the Black Lightning TV series. What a wonderful thing that was. I was involved. I did, when they hired Salim and Marv Akil as showrunners, we had conference calls. They flew me to New York to spend time with the writers. When Black Lightning premiered on Martin Luther King weekend in Washington, D.C., after I shamed DC into flying me in for it, they didn't make any room for me on the program, the panels, but I basically shamed them into flying me in for that. I got to meet the cast, and I'm still friends with many of the cast members. We chat every now and then. I was on the set several times. People, cast members and writers would, contact me with questions. And I even did a cameo appearance as a federal judge
That was like season 2 or 3, right?
in the end of season 3.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
that's so cool.
I had two lines originally. The first one in which I praised Black Lightning for his work, and the second one I was asking him a question about the briefcase he had. Um, and I was very convincing praising him because I was getting a reaction from Press Williams as I was doing that, and then they cut that line and asked me to be more of a dick for for the line that actually made it into the show.
They're like, hey, that character that you created and love, let's cut out that line and let's just
Yeah.
make you.
Hey, Black Lightning was very tightly edited. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how they managed to get so much content into every episode. I've got several of the original scripts, and I'm just amazed at how well they did that. And being on the set, in previous years was just amazing. I mean, they had two big buildings, um, some standing sets within those buildings, like Tobias's office and the Pierce family home. Um, at the end of the second season, there's a scene where Tobias Whale is brought into this uh, super prison for metahumans, and that morning, the head of the construction crew asked me to stop by because construction workers had brought in, some of the crew had brought in comic books that they wanted me to sign. And he showed me the bare bones of that set.
That's so cool.
And by like 8, 9 o'clock that night, we were filming on it. In fact, I was almost in the second season finale. Salim suddenly got this idea that, hey, is there a guard uniform that we can make fit Tony and get him in this scene? And Wardrobe was trying to find a costume, and I was actually the one who said to Salim, "Now, Salim, let's think about this. All these guards are these big, fit guy. I'm this short, fat guy. If you put me in the scene, you're going to end up cutting me out because I just don't belong there. And if you don't cut me out, I'm going to draw focus away from what's actually going on in the scene." So he said, all right, we'll get you in next season. And hence the federal judge, because federal judges can be short and fat. The robe covers up a lot of sins.
You're selling yourself short, Tony. You're saying,
Selling myself
we
short.
we all have.
Although I keep Jeff Johns, who's a wonderful friend. I keep telling Jeff Johns that he should have me play the Golden Age Adam in Stargirl.
Oh, nice. Hey, I like it. Well, you mentioned Jeff John. Like I saw on your Twitter that you mentioned that you had read Geiger.
Yeah,
his work. It's such a good series. So like
it really is. I've read the 6 issues and I've got the 80-page giant left to go.
Yeah, it's what a world. So, well, we kind of jumped into the Black Lightning talk a little bit. How did you go from your time at Marvel then to get to DC to where then you started to create Black Lightning?
Well, Roy Thomas was a great editor-in-chief at Marvel. He gave you a lot of freedom. After I started writing books regularly, all Roy ever asked for was, who's the villain? Is there a cover scene? Are you making any major changes to characters? And that's all Roy ever asked. I was free to do, once I told him that, I could do whatever I wanted. Things got chaotic after Roy stepped down. Roy just had enough of dealing with the suits. And although I love Len Wein and Marv Wolfman, I think the job was a little bit beyond them. I was actually a stealth candidate to replace Roy. Things got real difficult. Even though we had been friends, I think they kind of saw me as maybe a rival instead of an asset, and things got very difficult for me at Marvel. And even after I moved back to Ohio, figuring that might ease things, it didn't really. Yeah. So, when Jerry Conway came in as like the third new editor in a couple of years, Jerry offered me 100 pages of work a month. And DC had also made me an offer that included things like Batman and Justice League and creating new characters. I looked at how chaotic Marvel was, and I took the DC offer, and I asked them not to announce it until I had, gone to Jerry and told him face to face that I was not taking his offer. I go into Marvel. I let Jerry had something to tell me, and I let him go first because I'm a polite kind of guy. And he basically fires me. See, he was basically thinking that he could fire other people. And I won't name who he thought he could fire, but they had contracts, ironclad contracts. So not only could he not give me the work that he promised me, he couldn't even keep me on my own books because he needed to write, a certain number of books too. And, I was a little bit upset, but I said, it's okay, Jerry. I've got other options. Then I walk over to DC, stopping for lunch. Well, Jerry, bless his heart, calls up DC to tell them that he had to let me go because there was lack of work. But if I came over there, they should really hire me. Well, unfortunately, there was a guy at DC, Sal Harrison, who felt that meant that since Marvel had fired me, that they didn't have to honor the original deal they offered me. And that was pretty much my history with DC Comics. They never really kept, the full letter or spirit of their agreements with me. Even with Black Lightning. Black Lightning was supposed to be a partnership deal. DC violated that unfortunately unwritten contract within a week or so of making the deal. But as I said, no matter how badly DC has treated me, and they've treated me very badly over the years, there have been people there who've treated me well, and they can't take away from Black Lightning. They can do all the stupid things they want. Fact of the matter is that without Tony Isabella, Black Lightning doesn't exist. You can remove anybody else who's ever worked on Black Lightning. It still exists. You remove Tony Isabella, you never have Black Lightning.
Right. Yeah. And so, it's one of those, like you said, like it stinks of, the treatment you've gone through and went through, but like to get the character that you have such a passion for now and what it's given back to you, as a creator, that like, it's still cool that you have that experience with that creation that you made. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
awesome.
And as I've often said that I would like to, my perfect death would be writing the end to a Black Lightning story and then keeling over on my keyboard, and my cat would then probably eat me, but that's okay. It's the circle of life. But no, I would write Black Lightning stories till the end of my days, happily. If I did nothing else but write Black Lightning stories, I would be happy. Unfortunately, I don't own the character.
Right.
So instead, they do stupid things like that asinine Batman and the Outsiders series, where you have to understand Jefferson Pierce. There's three things that matter to Jefferson Pierce: his family, his students, and his community. In the most recent crap fest that was Batman and the Outsiders, he leaves all that behind. He leaves all that behind to be Batman's support Negro, living in a penthouse apartment paid for by Bruce Wayne. I would imagine that Bruce Wayne would leave the money on the table whenever he visited. Mike Barr had crafted this wonderful adult friendship, non-sexual, non-romantic, between Black Lightning and Katana. And DC took the stupid, easy way out. Well, they're both on the team. They can be romantically involved. They had Batman experimenting on Black Lightning to increase his powers. At the same time, on the TV show, they were doing a storyline about like modern day Tuskegee experiments, where the government was giving exposing Black people to green light and giving them superpowers. And the cluelessness of what they did with Batman and the Outsiders. And then recently I saw something where he was a living lightning bolt that lived in Katana's sword. He wasn't even human anymore. That is not only a misunderstanding of the character,
Yeah.
it is manifestly disrespectful to the character, to his fans, and to his creator.
Yeah.
But apparently there's not enough money to buy DC a clue on this sort of thing.
So how did you come about with the idea of Black Lightning? You know, because that is, again, like you said, people dress up like Black Lightning. People come to cons and tell you the impact that it had. You know, how did you come up with this idea of this such a great character?
Well, when I was a teenager in Cleveland, which was a very segregated city, this would have been about 1969 or so. I had a comic book club on the west side of Cleveland where I lived. And my first Black friends were comic book fans who came from the east side of Cleveland to the west side of Cleveland. And diverse, I was 17 years old. Diversity wasn't really part of my vocabulary.
Right.
But, you know, I just thought it was unfair that my Black friends didn't have more characters that looked like them in the comics. So I told myself if I ever got in the comics, I would try to work on and create characters of color. At Marvel, I wrote Luke Cage, I wrote the Falcon, I created Misty Knight, I turned Bill Foster into Black Goliath. Didn't really want to call him Black Goliath. I wanted to call him Giant Man. Giant Man sold really bad, so they wouldn't let me call him Giant Man. Although eventually, I guess they did, you know, start calling him that.
Right.
And then when I got to you know, every you know, there were things I, you know, like Luke Cage. I never liked the idea of him being an ex-con, even an unjustly convicted ex-con. And had I stayed on the Luke Cage book longer, he would have been completely exonerated. And I actually planned to send him back to school because, you know, here's a character who could be a role model.
Right.
With you know, Bill Foster, I thought, you know, he was a scientist. I thought that was a step in the right direction. I absolutely hated when Steve Englehart revealed that the Falcon was actually a criminal who had been mesmerized by the Red Skull or something. It was a stupid, asinine thing to do with the character. And I was addressing it in the few issues of Captain America I wrote. Had I stayed on Captain America, once I had finished addressing that, you would have never seen me bring that up again.
Yeah.
I believe in core values, not continuity.
Mm.
You know, and my feeling is if something in the past was stupid, like for example the Spider-Mobile or the Falcon being a criminal, ignore it. Never mention it again.
Right.
But anyway, so I go to DC, and because of Black Lightning, or because of my work at Marvel, they wanted me to write. They had bought 2 scripts for a character called the Black Bomber. And they wanted me to punch up these 2 scripts and then take over the book with the 3rd issue. These were the most offensive comic book scripts I had ever read in my life. Now, let me preface this by saying it was created by Jerry Conway and Bob Canninger, 2 great guys,
Yeah.
2 very progressive guys. They were too close to what they were doing, which was in their minds a superhero version of the Godfrey Cambridge movie, The Watermelon Man, to recognize how awful this was. The Black Bomber was a white racist who in Vietnam took part in chemical camouflage experiments to help him blend into the jungle better. Nothing happened when he was in Vietnam, but when he got home, he would turn into a Black superhero at various times. Didn't seem to be any rhyme or reason as to why he would do this. Neither identity knew of the other's existence, although they both had girlfriends who witnessed the transformation and never said a thing. My significant other undergoes a change like that in front of me, I'm going to ask a question or two.
Right.
As the white racist in both of these scripts, he saves somebody, you know, heroically, but he doesn't see the person clearly until after he saved them. And he's horrified when he discovers that he's risked his life for a Black person. in one case, it's a black baby in a baby carriage. And it's in the script. He says, "You mean I risked my life for a jungle bunny?" And so I'm telling
Wow.
DC, oh, and his costume was basically a basketball uniform.
Wow.
I told DC, "You cannot publish these." And he go, "What do you mean we can't publish them? We paid for them, we own them." I said, "No, you don't understand. These are offensive. These are incredibly offensive. You publish these comics, people will come to the offices with pitchforks and torches." And they go, "How could you know that?" I go, "I will lead them. I'll be the guy in front with the torch and the pitchfork." So we fought about this for like
Yeah.
2 weeks. And finally, I boiled it down to, do you really think you want your first headline black superhero, your first black superhero to have his own title, to be a white racist? And at that point, I had like, they gave me 2 weeks to create my own character. Took nothing from the Black Bomber. But, I created Jefferson Pierce. I
Yeah.
created his world. I created the skills he would need to fight crime in the inner city, which was important to me. I wanted to do a down to earth series. Um, the fact that he's teaching at his old school, I stole that from Welcome Back, Kotter. The fact that he clearly did not make a lot of money for being an Olympic champion. In my mind, he was one of the athletes who gave the Black Power salute on the podium. I never got this into a story, but he was one of those guys. And as a result, his athletic career was ruined. That's
Right.
why he never made any money from it. About an hour before the pitch meeting, I was meeting with Joe Orlando and Sal Harrison. Joe Orlando, great guy. I love the man. I wish I had worked with him more. Sal Harrison, not fond of. Um, about an hour before the pitch meeting, I suddenly realized I haven't given him a superhero identity. So I'm wandering, I'm a writer. I can think fast on my feet. I'm wandering around the DC offices. I see a rough sketch for a Wonder Woman cover that has Wonder Woman on a building or maybe on a robot plane, lassoing a black lightning bolt and saying something like, "Hera, help me stop this black lightning from destroying the city." And it's the 70s. I'm thinking, black lightning, that's catchy. So I came up with all the electrical stuff, um, on the spot right then and there. Um, Much of what I had done in creating Black Lightning was to, as Jeanette Kahn had asked me to do, bring some Marvel style magic to the book. That's why his tailor, his suit maker, Peter Gamby, was related to the guy who made costumes for the Flash's supervillains. That's why he was in Suicide Slum in Metropolis, same town as Superman.
Right.
That's why there was a connection, between him and Batman, distant convention, in that Peter had been involved with the League of Assassins. His ex-wife was named Lynn Stewart because I figured, well, maybe at some point I reveal that she's, the sister of John Stewart, the Black Green Lantern.
Oh.
I never did anything with that. I guess later on, maybe in the Young Justice cartoons, they've established that that is indeed the case, that she's related to her, but I haven't watched all the Young Justice cartoons yet.
Yeah.
So anyway, I came in there. Black Lightning's world was completely created. Tobias Whale, the 100, which I borrowed from Bob Canninger's Rose and the Thorn series. But it was all there. Everything that made Black Lightning, everything that made Jefferson Pierce was all there in the pitch meeting. And that's why I was given solo creator credit for the first 2 or so years of the character's existence, until I inquired about buying the character back, and they retroactively decided Trevor Von Eden was a co-creator. Not to take anything away from Trevor. He worked hard on the book. At his young age, the work he did was incredible. He visualized the characters from my descriptions. But he wasn't really a co-creator. These days, he's listed. I rewrote the credit when DC and I came to a new agreement before the TV show. They actually offered me my solo credit back. I knew that if I did that, Trevor would never get another dime from them, because that's just how DC rolls.
Yeah.
So I rewrote the credit line created by Tony Isabella with Trevor Von Eden, with being very ambiguous. So if somebody wants to call Trevor a co-creator, yeah, feel free to. I don't let anybody call me a co-creator. If somebody's talking to me, they're going to call me the creator of Black Lightning. If they're going to advertise me at their show, it's the creator of Black Lightning, never co-creator. And, but Salim Akil probably summed it up best on the set of when Trevor and I did the cameo. He said, he introduced us to all the cast members, most of whom already knew me. They hadn't met Trevor yet, and said, we have two special guests with us, two special performers. There's, Tony Isabella, who created Black Lightning, who created this world, and Trevor Von Eden, who showed us what it looked like. And I think that's a great way of summing up Trevor's role in Black Lightning.
Yeah, that's so cool to just kind of hear that process, and how much real life fits into your experience of creating, right? Of kind of dealing with your friends that didn't see representation for them in their comics. And I don't remember if it was like third or fourth issue of the first run of Black Lightning that you did. You have a page with Superman and Black Lightning kind of talking, where Black Lightning is just kind of like talking with Superman of like, you can't do what I can do
right
in this
part.
Right, and like that was, if you all haven't read that, like read that page. Like it's such a powerful page of just the street level aspect of the hero, but not even that, but like how he's connected with the community compared to what Superman, as great as Superman is, he's not the hero for Suicide Slums.
I have always tried to be thoughtful and in my writing. Everybody has off days, but I have never given any comic book that I've been involved in less than the best I can give it at the time I'm working on it. I was once told by a Marvel editor that I should only put my best efforts into one book and just hack out anything else I was writing. I was once told by a DC executive that my writing was so good that if I gave them work that was half as good, they'd be happy with it and I could do more work for them. And I'm looking like, where's the dial on me that lets me dial it down to 50%? Right. I can't do it. And I've always known that I can't do that. So that's just, that's who I am as a writer. That's who I am as a person.
Yeah, it shows, it shows through the writing. And so because when you first created it, your run, then you were back on Black Lightning, I think it was in the mid-90s?
In the mid-90s. And I was determined not, every time I've written Black Lightning, I think I've upped my game. I think my 90s writing is much better than my 70s writing. The fact that I had Eddie Newell as my artist, Eddie just made my stories come to life. He's a great artist, slow, but a great artist. And then when I did my most recent series, Black Lightning Cold Dead Hands, 20 years later, I decided to do a kind of minor reboot of the character. I didn't redo his origin. I would have had it continued. I would have, but in those 6 issues, I made him a little bit younger, a little bit smarter, found some new ways for him to use his powers, made it clear that he was born. The second series took place in Cleveland, but I never called it Cleveland. Anything I named, people think it was in Brick City. No, Brick City was the name of a neighborhood, which is clear in the stories. Brick City is the real life Cleveland neighborhood that was basically built for returning World War II veterans.
Okay.
And, with White Flight, it ended up being where you had the blacks, the Asians, the Hispanics, still some white people in it, but it became more of a melting pot. In the new series, Black Lightning Cold Dead Hands, It's set in Cleveland. There's a lot of Cleveland landmarks in it. Um, I established that his father, there's a picture of his father had recently died. That's why they had moved back to Cleveland, so his father could die in the city where they were born. And there was a little backstory about how his father had been like the first black reporter for a newspaper there. And they wouldn't give the newspaper wouldn't let him have a company car, so he got around on a motorcycle. And there's a picture of his dad on the motorcycle at this special kind of post-funeral wake for his dad. And it's a picture of my father just redrawn as a black man, because my favorite picture of my father has him looking like freaking James Dean on a motorcycle with a gray hat. I have that hat. I may start wearing it to conventions.
Nice.
It's my favorite photo of my dad. Um, and there's like I said, lots of Cleveland landmarks in there. Um, the climactic battle takes place at what was then the old abandoned Coast Guard station on Whiskey Island, which
Okay.
was connected to downtown Cleveland. And I had never been there. I sent Clayton Henry, the terrific artist who do this Cold Dead Hand series, I'd sent him photos of it, and he nailed it. And when one of the local TV series stations wanted to interview me about the Black Lightning TV series and the fact that Black Lightning Cold Dead Hands was set in Cleveland, they said, well, can we, we could go to a comic shop and interview. And I said, well, yeah, we could. It's been done 1,000 times. Why don't we go here and you can use artwork from the comic? And I get there. I'd never been there before, and I'm standing there, and it's like, oh my God, I'm in my own comic book. That's how great a job Clayton Henry had done drawing it.
That's so cool. I have to go back and try and reread it and look at the Cleveland landmarks, because I'm like, and then I'm gonna go do a little Cleveland tour.
Well, I'll tell you, I had, one of the first reviews talked about the book being anti-cop, which is ridiculous. His best friend is a police detective in this Cold Dead Hands. What the book has, it has good cops, it's got bad cops, and it's got cops who are trying to figure out which they are.
Right.
It was a real, to me, I'm not anti-police. I'm anti-bad police. I mean, hell, I grew up on, reading, while I was at Marvel, Don McGregor introduced me to Ed McBain's 87 Precinct novels. I've read them all like 3 times. Two of my favorite programs were Hill Street Blues and NYPD Blue. I would love to write a comic book of any of those 3 properties, although I'd probably have to fight Don to the death to do it. And Don would probably win because he's feistier than I am. But yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't, and somebody else said, well, all this diversity in the comic. Well, yes, I had a gay woman, and I had a gender fluid, shape-changing, shape-shifting alien from another planet as one of Black Lightning's, but those are all, well, okay, I don't know the alien, but well, I do in here. I do in my heart. I know this alien. I love the character. He was named Usagi after Sailor Moon, because he also is a big manga fan.
Nice.
And I had a great time. He was supposed to die, and I enjoyed writing him too much to kill him. So yeah, I mean, there was diversity in the book, but that was because, that's life.
Yeah.
That's reality.
Oh, for sure.
And my favorite comic books have always been those that have reflected the real world, even with the fantastic stuff going on.
Man, it's so much I could talk to you about. I want to hit one last part before I let you go. Okay. I know I'm keeping you a little bit. You at the beginning of the interview, we kind of got into the aspect of the TV show. I wanted to kind of see where, like, they had to have read those comics very well, because
yeah,
I mean, because you get like right in issue, I think episode 2 or 3, you see Painkiller from, which was from your second arc, right in there, and then the creation that you're like, so man, just can you give me a little insight of what went on in that writer's
during these during the conference calls with Salim and Mara,
Yeah.
during my time in the writer's room, they asked me so many freaking questions. I had to really struggle to remember some of the stuff they were asking me about. And yes, they definitely read these comics in the writer's room. And unfortunately, I was not allowed to take a picture of it. On one wall, they had the first 13 episodes broken down very briefly. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, there's a whole bunch of my stuff in there. And actually, originally, they were going to kill off both Peter Gamby and Tobias Whale in the first series, but then they hired those amazing actors to play them. No, you're not going to kill
You
those
can't
guys
get rid of
off.
those actors.
And then on the other wall, there were pictures from the comic books of various characters and names of characters. Most of the original Outsiders were listed. Characters I had created. I mean, yeah, they really, I mean, the comic books were their Bible.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were constantly asking me questions, and asking, like they had a problem with the character Grace, who in the comic books was an Amazon, and they weren't allowed to have any connection to Wonder Woman for some reason. And they didn't go in this direction. But when they asked me, well, what do we do here? And I said, because I'd already seen that she was a shapeshifter, I said, make her a Durlin. They had a Durlin in Supergirl, Linda Carter as the president. Make Grace a Durlin. Then you have a real illegal alien in the
Right.
storyline.
That's it's so cool to see, like, it, when a TV adaptation or a movie adaptation, like, where they take the source material to heart, because we've seen it where it doesn't happen like
Oh
that.
yeah, I'm a core values guy. I don't expect TV shows or movies to be exactly like the comic books. I do expect them to get the core values right, and they did in Black Lightning. His family was important to him,
Yep.
his students, and his community. They never lost that in the 4 seasons of Black Lightning. So yeah, they had the core values down. The fact that so much of my work also appeared in the series, and that Trevor and I got credits up front, it just means the world to me. I mean, the Black Lightning TV show has been the best experience of my comics career.
As we wrap up this, do you have some memorabilia from the TV show, or like a prop or anything, or a Funko, a toy from there that you're like, this is cool?
I have a lot of Black Lightning stuff from the set itself. I have the water bottle that was in front of me when I played the judge. I have a few other things from there. And I have a picture of me wearing the vest. Because this is the original vest that Cress wore in the first few episodes, but Cress is a very big man and it was not very comfortable, so they got him a new one. And then this other one was used by his stand-in, not the stunt double, but the stand-in. And there's a shot of me in Gamby's lab wearing the vest.
So cool.
Um,
That's so cool.
I put it online a few times, that photo.
I'm gonna be scrolling back then and looking for it. Well, Tony, thank you so much just for taking some time to talk about your comics, talk about your creations. I greatly appreciate it. Where can people follow along with what you are doing, because you are super active?
Well, they can follow me on Facebook. I mean, I don't have a lot of room on my friends list, but they can follow me on Facebook, because anybody who I haven't blocked can read what I post there. I have a second page called the Official Tony Isabella Message Board, which is it was a message board back in the day that became a Facebook page. There's Tony Isabella's Authentic Black Lightning Group Facebook page, where we talk about authentic portrayals of Black Lightning. I do a blog, Tony Isabella's bloggy thing, which hasn't been as active as I would like, but I posted a couple of blogs this month already. I write gags for a feature called Last Kiss, created by John Lustig. I do 1 or 2 gags a week for that. You can find it on Go Comics. It's called Last Kiss. And I'm creating new comic universes, new characters. I don't know when I'm going to bring them to the marketplace or if I'll be able to. My big project for this month and probably beginning of May is the second volume of my July 1963 pivotal month in the comic book life of Tony Isabella series of books. Since that was the month I decided I wanted to write comic books, I am acquiring, reading, and writing about every one of the 138 comics that came out that month. And it could go as many as 7 volumes by the time I'm done. The first volume is already available through Amazon.
Wow.
So just look for Tony Isabella or July 1963 and people can order that.
That's so cool.
And they should, because it'll make doing volume 2 that much easier.
Nice. Well, I will put the links to everything that we've talked about in the description of this video, or if you're listening on a podcast, in the description of that podcast. So
terrific.
But definitely go out, check that out. Tony, it's been a delight talking with you. Thank you so much for, again, taking some of your time.
I'm happy to do it. I think I have one more podcast or something to do before I take like the rest of April and May off, so that I could like finish this book.
Right.
But I'll be doing some conventions. If you go, if you follow me online, I do announce these conventions periodically. I'll give you, I'll post my schedule of conventions for the year. I'm adding conventions. I'm adding other speaking engagements. It'll all be online.
Well, good. Hopefully I'll run into you in person here sometime, being an Ohio guy myself. So it'd be great. So
all right.
So, all right. Well, Tony, thank you so much again. And go check out, if you haven't any of the comics we've talked about, the books, go check them out. And with that being said, gang, hopefully you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. Peace.